Thank you for your grace that led me home.
It's for us important that we talk about our victories, that we are honest, that we are transparent, and that we share. And the reason why we're doing this, and I'm going to be frank and honest with you, Philip mentioned this morning as well that sometimes we think people are up, standing here, we are holy and we are more, I don't know, we've been born like that. And we want ordinary men that can just share from their life this afternoon, where they come from and what God has done for them. So I just want you to sit back and just listen, allow the Spirit of the Lord just to minister to you as they just share from their life. So I've got two of our members in Swakopmund, Uncle Chris, Chris, whatever you want to call him. He's just going to share a little bit more about him. And then Quintin, you've met last night as well. They're also there with us. So Chris, maybe you can just give the guys a background from where you are, where you grew up, and then I'll give the Quintin the same opportunity just to share.
I'm going to try English. Ek is van die Arnos boere. So my English is actually for own use. So forgive me. I come out of a parent house where my father was a mix between a German, an Irishman, and something much worse. He was a fantastic mechanic, the best I've seen in the world, but the worst father I've ever met. He didn't have time for his children. That's what I think. Well, I observed it like that. And he always had time to tell anybody else, some of my friends, how an engine works and what not to do and what to do. But if I asked him, he just told me, shut up and do as I tell you. Now that's things that break you down. And you got pushback. Then I made friends. Friends can make or break you. My friends introduced me to bad music, from Def Leppard to Black Sabbath, and there's things start going back. And then my brother, which I love today very much, he brought me to Christ. He was one of the men Christ used to get me on my knees. He brought the first Playboy into the house. And that was really the heap that just got too much. A few years ago, I actually got saved from porno. I walked my whole married life with porno. Shall I stop here?
Yeah, just stop. I know everybody's attention is there. We're going to stop you there for a moment. Maybe Quintin Dixon give a short for the rest of the guys that didn't, just a background of, not your testimony as such, but just a background where you come from, and then we'll come to the individual points that we would like to share. Yeah.
Okay, I come from a very small town. The town's name is Stellenbosch. It's in the Southern Cape. I think we only had a OK stores there or something. It's like Caribbean, that type of thing, but there's a beach, so there's a lot of holiday houses. My father had a couple of butcheries, and my mother had a fish shop, and we used to work every holiday. It was tough. Yeah, but I had a normal schooling. We grew up in we were going to church every Sunday. Nothing special.
Thank you, Quintin. Okay, guys, we want to talk, and I'm going to be honest, like I said this afternoon, there's two areas that we want to touch, and I believe they can share from their lives. The one is in the sexual area, and the other one is in money. Those can be such dangerous traps for us as men. So we want to talk about it this afternoon, just to make sure that we walk in victory in that area. But maybe, Chris, coming back to you, you mentioned that your brother brought the first Playboy. I don't know, how old were you? Maybe you can run us through this challenge that you were facing for the past few years. Because obviously it seems that it's been a long time that you were enslaved in this.
Okay, I can't remember things so well, but I was still very young. And yeah, it got worse, like my brother mentioned last night. It went from porno to blue movies, and your friends, the only thing women were good for is for pleasure, that's all. We misused them, we abused them, and even in my married life, I couldn't stop that. I went hunting, I went for greener grass. Yeah, that it's a thing. If the devil gets you that far, you've got what to be here. You've got no. You can't control it. It is uncontrollable. You go on your knees and you pray, God, this is not right. I want to turn around, but you cannot turn around by yourself. It is impossible. I've tried it many times. If you try to turn around from bad alone, you're going to fall back and fall back and fall back.
Chris, you mentioned the other day when we were sharing, there came a turning point when, after you were falling back all the time, being enslaved in it, what happened that you eventually got victory to that?
That time, it's a couple of years back in Sierra Leone. I call it the wrong side of Africa, but God took me there to get me alone, where there's no pastor, no friends, nothing around me, so that he can have with me quality time, and he had it. It's the first time in my life that I actually read through the Bible. And one night, I'm going to use the word gatvol. I was at the end of everything. I had enough of talking to God and asking him, God, I must turn around. And I called out to him. I really screamed out to him. I said, God, help. I threw in everything. There was nothing left of me. And then God took my hand. What a wonderful evening that was. And yeah, the next morning I was so relieved that I walked up to a friend of mine. He was actually in the university years ago studying for a preacher. And when I walked up to him, I told him, listen, I have to I have to share this with you. God just broke my chains on porno. And he started to cry. He said, Chris, you too. So most of us sitting here has got this nice little cover over, because porno, you can't see somebody. You can't judge him by looking at him. You can see somebody if he drinks. You can smell him, you can see him, his eyes and his red nose. If he's smoking, you can. But if somebody is in porno, you can't see it. It's covered, and that is so hard to get rid of. I was a smoker. I put down cigarettes just like it. Pop. I was drinking beer every night of my life. I stopped that, but that chain I could not break. Pastors prayed for me, but I was not at the point that I got so angry that I said, God, I can't go on like this anymore. I got very frustrated and angry.
Chris, I think you mentioned a key there is that you really became angry at sin. I want to say a godly anger that we have to change. And I think many times we want to change, but we do not want to change because we still enjoy that part as well. That's the only way I can explain that. And I think till we get to that place that we hate that and we love God more, like I said this morning, that's the only place where I believe there's a key for us and where you cried out to God. You mentioned the other day as well when we were sharing that even nowadays, and I think that is where we have to maybe share with the guys here, even after you received your victory, maybe you can talk with the guys and just share regarding the computer and your walk nowadays that you mentioned about being careful. Just personally, maybe that's personally for you in terms of how you, I almost want to say you guard your victory and protect your victory. Because it's maybe not practical for everybody here, but I believe that we have to guard our victory. Maybe you can share with us how do you protect your victory or guard that?
Yes. Something I did not share with you is I got released from porno, but my mind wasn't cleaned up. My mind was so full of those images. And I was praying about that too. May I share that? I was praying about that, and nothing happened. And I was getting to the point again that, Lord, it's now. It's going to be now. I want to get free of this. I am not going on like this anymore. I want my mind cleaned up. I stand behind the lathe. I'm busy cutting steel. And those images overtake me that I forget all my measurements. If I get up to pray in the morning, I start praying and whoop, those images are back in my mind. And you cannot control it. It's a day by day thing. I don't like porno. I don't like to look at anybody's wife's things they're showing. Some of the wives are very poor, dressed these days, and I show. That's how much I hate porno. I don't like to see beautiful women, parts, except my wife. But those images really controlled me. I talked to a friend of mine that was going to the mine down south, never mind, at the Orange River. They were with a pastor here in Okahanya doing deliverance. And I phoned the pastor. I said, listen, you are in this job. I know you get mechanics and electricians and stories. You are in the deliverance business. I want to get deliverance. Finish. I'm eager. He said, okay, let's make an appointment, but I tell you now, forehand, you will not be able to make it if you really don't push it. Because the devil doesn't want you to get delivered. You know, and I said, no, man, I'll make it. But I didn't. I didn't make it. I got so sick, I got to the fishu, forgot his name. Ruan, thank you. And that morning, when I walked in, was the morning that I had to be at the deliverance. I said, I feel no pain now, but let's pray. And we start praying over the men's camp and something, and I could sense the devil is not happy what's happening here. And it was the next week, Monday, I was in my workshop, and here walked in a very good friend of mine, pastor and his wife. Never mind, they walked in from Malta. The woman, my sister, very, very beautiful people, said we had a dream. God sent us to you. You see, the devil cannot outrun the plans God has. He can make you sick. He can stop you from doing what. But he's got already other people on their way to me. And that night, it was Tuesday night, I got delivered. Praise God. I haven't got those images in me anymore. So God can clean up any mess in your heart, in your mind, anything. Hallelujah.
Yeah, I think, Chris, we're so glad to hear that. And I think what's important that you mentioned the other day as well to me is that you guard your victory. That you know that you have to stay away from the computer. If you know that there is a weakness or there's a possibility that you're going to fall, stay away from that. It was so beautiful to me the other day when you said your wife is doing all the accounts and stuff on the computer. You don't work on that.
I hate when you put on your computer and you go into something, then comes up this lady. I didn't invite her, nothing. And then I just get up. I said, Mama, come take over. It is like my brother said, it never leaves you. The devil will never leave you, but he can never get that deep or get his foot in the door if you don't let him. If you see something like that, it's written in the Bible. If you get to a situation like that, turn around and run. Don't discuss, no, stop. Turn around and run. It's dangerous. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chris. That's just special. Man, you can be a preacher. I just hear you quoting scripture there from run and flee from the devil and all of those things. But that's so true. I think another key that you mentioned there is transparency and accountability. The fact that you were transparent with your wife about your weakness. And I know men, you're sitting probably here, and I've spoken to men here, sitting here, that shared with me their victory, how they sat with their wife, and maybe That's another discussion, how you facilitate that, but the fact of the matter is that we have to be transparent when we come to these things with the weaknesses, like we shared this morning as well. Quintin, I know you shared a lot, and the guys last night afterwards, they were so amazed by your testimony. I know the story didn't stop there. God obviously took you further in your journey, and then specifically when it gets to money, that's an area which, I'm not going to say the love of money, let's say how to understand money and to manage that. I know that's something that's close to your heart as well. Maybe you can share with us how God led you to that point and your passion there.
Yeah, I think my testimony about my illness is something secondary to money for me. I was 13 years old when my father went bankrupt, and they had 11 butcheries and a slaughterhouse, and they lost everything. They even took all our furniture out of the house and put it on auction. So we had nothing, and you know, when you're 13, you're a teenager, you're at the peak of your development or character development in life. You know, I just decided there, never in my life something like that will happen to me. Not because I feared it, because I just decided I'm going to do it the right way. And I think it had a lot to do with my mother. My mother was a big influence in my life spiritually, especially. I think if it wasn't for her, I've never met the Lord. She always, she never taught me. She always told me about the things that she was experiencing from God, you know, very similar to what Philip talked about as well. And she never pushed me into Christianity, but she always told me these amazing stories about how she talks to God, how she writes it down, and how he speaks back. And I just knew, you know, money is one thing, but Christianity is something else. And those two can't sit together. Because I'm a salesman, and I always knew I was good in selling, but sometimes you have to lie a little bit to get the sale done. And I thought, if you're a Christian and I'm a salesman, those two just not going to go together. Because if you have to lie a little bit, then you can't be a Christian. So I just decided I'm going to be a salesman. But I understood the principles in the Bible, things that my mother taught me, and I was tithing already even before I went to a spiritual church. You know, I went to normal church, but as soon as I started working, I was giving a 10th, a 20th of that. I was already giving to my mother because she was my spiritual influence. Because that's what the word says, you tithe where you get spiritual food from, the storehouse and all that. I didn't know the crux of the whole story, but you know, money was so important to me that I decided I will do it right. And I started there, even before I knew the Lord. And God supplied me in times where I didn't earn a lot of money. I had enough to drink alcohol, I had enough to smoke. I always had party money. I played golf and I was earning 1,000 rand a month. So I always had enough, even though I didn't know the Lord. So I think that was the basis for me to start out with.
Yes. Can I see any other salesman here in the place? Can you just raise your hand? Saki, you heard about the lies. We'll pray for you later. But no. Quintin, you mentioned something there. You had enough money for I almost want to say the cigarettes and all of those things, doing that thing, and you were tithing. And that's interesting. I just want us to listen here because we're talking here about spiritual principles and laws. Maybe you can run us through that, because people think, well, if you're a Christian and you tithe, then you'll have the benefit of that. What he's talking about here is he was not actually, if I understand you correctly, not fully serving the Lord, but he was paying a tithe. Okay, that is before. Mostly nowadays people come to church, they get saved, and then they start this journey, and then somewhere along the line they find out the church is asking 10% of the income, and that's always the difficult one, saying it lightly. But maybe you can share with us what happened there.
there's more than, I think it's 2,000 scriptures about money in the Bible. So I think it's very important. If you look at the Bible and look at percentages of what is important in the Bible, money is quite important. And money is probably the best tool God can use to make you dependent on Him, isn't it? If you don't agree, put up your hand. You know, my walk with money didn't all of a sudden happen and I had everything right. You know, I did a lot of things wrong. And everything is a walk, but I had to start somewhere. And my starting point was sowing and reaping. And if I tithe, God will look after me. I don't have to worry. And I just knew that. I didn't even think about it. I didn't have faith in it. I just did it because I know it's the right thing. And from there on, when I became a Christian, you know, things changed a bit. But I think my next turning point wasn't the tithing part. My next turning point where God takes you, He takes you out of a hole and He puts you on a nice place, and then He takes you from there and He drops you down because you didn't listen. You know, I was up and down all the time. So there was no stability because there was no spiritual stability. But as soon as the spiritual stability kicked in, where I was part of a church, I was serving in the church, I was involved in the church, I was reading my Bible, and I was praying. Doesn't matter how difficult it was for me. It was very difficult. But I did those things. And as soon as those things hit in, then God starts talking, and then you start listening, and then the difficult things come. And I think the next turning point for me was when I was working. I was earning, I think it was 4,000 Rand a month. My car payment was 1,300, and I was renting a house for 1,000, or a flat for 1,200, and the rest was my food. So there wasn't much left. And I was earning commission at the company I started working, and it was selling paint in Cape Town. I know there's a drought there now, but it rains the rest of the time. So it was in winter. It was June that year, and I didn't even earn commission at that time. I was just covering my costs. And God told me I must give 3,000 Rand of the 4,000 to the church. Man, that was difficult. I think that was the most difficult thing I've ever done regarding money. Because how can you practically give away 3,000 or 4,000 and your cost just for the month is 3,500? But I was at that stage so trusting God, because spiritually I was at a good place. And I said, you know, if I don't have to eat, then I'm just going to fast. So I'll save that money. And if I can't drive, then I can't drive. So that will happen. So I started doing that the first month. And I got a commission from an older deal that came through that month that I didn't even realize. So I just survived that month. And the next month I just survived as well. That was July. And the month after that I just survived as well. I was earning 10,000 Rand commission after that, every month. After that. And I kept on giving 3,000. And I did it because I trusted God and I knew it was the right thing. But it was very difficult. But I did it. But it took a long walk to get there. And from there on, you know, God is just so amazing. The year after that, I was earning double what I earned the previous year. The year after that, I was earning double again after that. The year after that, I was earning 50,000 a month. That was in 2006. 50,000 a month. And I believe everything started with that specific principle. That I just said, God, I'm going to trust you because you are my provider. The other thing that I also just want to add in there, I increased my knowledge or wisdom or experience about money through a course that we started. We did it first, and then we started presenting it all about money in God's kingdom, and it's called Crown Financial Study. And Chris also did it with me when in here. So it's a very good thing, and I think that taught me also a lot about it, because it's not just about money, it's about all the other things, the principles that you have to have in place before that can actually be activated, if I can call it that.
Thank you, Quintin. Yeah, you mentioned so many things. So, to summarize that, I think the stability, the family around you, but then also absolute obedience, faith and trust, and then knowledge about how to apply that correctly. But in conclusion, yeah, you can.
Something that he taught me, but I think he forgot about it. If you can't trust God with your money, you can't trust him with anything. Money is the first thing. You have to, because that's the easiest thing. And if you can fly, I wonder why we call him fly. They sit most of the time. If we always trust the devil with his lies, can't we just, for a start, trust what God is telling us in the Bible about money? Can't we just take a try? And my brother has gone through it, and with the help of my brother and the lesson that he has taught me, I'm doing the same. And I'm surviving. Don't tell me how, because God's business is not our business. If you do what he says, you'll survive and more. Amen.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, Quintin, you mentioned something about a weapon. I remember last year, August, we were here at the Rock Lodge, and Darby Furu mentioned something about money at a session, and that was to me so powerful. He said, money should become a weapon. And I just sitting here thinking about it. Sometimes it has become a weapon in the hand of the enemy to keep us in a snare, to keep us trapped. Or we can change that around through our knowledge and through obedience, and it becomes a weapon in our hand to further the kingdom of God. And it's basically just the decision is ours, whether we want to allow that as a weapon in his hand or it's going to be a weapon in our hand this afternoon. Chris, coming back to you, and now just to you, Quintin, as well. In conclusion, coming back to your victory in terms of the pornography and the sexual area. For the guys sitting here this afternoon, what advice would you give to them if they are stuck in that at the moment, maybe trapped in that? What would you say to them? How do they get out of that?
Well, as Pastor said, you must get somebody trustworthy, because the problem with people, they like to gossip. And because porno is such a filthy thing, really, people gets ashamed about it, because it's a filthy thing. It messes up everything around you. Your marriage, your mind, everything. I should recommend, get somebody that you can trust and talk to him. Talk to him. And if there's anybody, I don't think there is anybody, but if there is anybody here, please come and talk to me. Because you are in a chain that you alone cannot get rid of. Only God can get you out there. Only Him, and Him alone.
Thank you, Chris. Quintin, on your side, what would you give the guys advice about money this afternoon?
Yeah, I think the crux of everything in my life is just revelation. It's difficult to give my revelation over to you. You know, a lot of people write books that we read, but it's their revelation that they're trying to give to you. But sometimes you read the book and you don't understand what the fuss is about. And it's the same thing with me. I've walked this road. I started somewhere and I got a lot of revelation. But there's a scripture that says, the Lord Himself said, if I cannot trust you with worldly wealth, how can I trust you with the true riches? And that's what we're here for. You know, we're not just here for the money side of it. We're here for the true riches. But if God cannot trust you with the money that He supplies to you, how can He trust you with the true riches? And I think that there afterwards is that parable that Jesus told about the man that went to a field and he found a treasure and he sold everything that he had and to buy the field because that treasure was there. That is how effective money can teach you the ways of God. We've got a prayer group that we started a while back. I think Mark and Peter Allen started it long ago, and it started up and we stopped going and then we started up again, and eventually this thing has grown now into a business prayer group, businessmen and businesswomen, and we meet regularly. And I cannot tell you how many miracles that I can testify, and every man or woman that went there, what God has done in that prayer group weekly, not monthly, weekly. And God really is sitting there waiting for you to trust Him with the money that He supplied you.
First of all, maybe some of you are in that specific area where Chris shared. Maybe over the course of the weekend you want to talk to him somewhere private. What I want to challenge you, do not walk away from this weekend if you feel that God is stirring that area in your heart to share that, to be accountable to a person. I think that is the least that you can do. I don't want to put you on the spot here. I don't want to shame any person. I know that's a sensitive area, but I know as well that if you stay in that place like Chris shared, you will not get victory. So either over this weekend or somewhere, go and share that with a trusted friend. Maybe you're sitting here this afternoon, you are trapped in other stuff. It's not just that. There are many other addictions that we are trapped with. So in closing, what I want us to just to turn to that person next to. Maybe you haven't got something specifically on your heart. Let's just close this session. Maybe there's something that you are you're challenged by, something that you cannot walk away from. And it's maybe just something small. It's just maybe a bad habit. The fact of the matter, the root is the same. We are in bondage. It's the same with pornography and any other thing. Satan wants to keep you in bondage. And a lot of what we're doing this weekend is just to keep you out of that place, into a place of freedom.
Peace that I've come to know. Thank you for your life. Thank you for my past, which you redeemed.